Okay, so let's start now. I'll start without presentation. I know it by heart anyway. While the guys are helping me out, I'll just tell you stories. I'm the CEO of Kanban. My name is Dimitar, and I hope you enjoy this event because we're the sponsor, one of the sponsors over there. If you don't enjoy it, please let me know. By the way, can you see me? This lamp was burning my eyes when I was watching the keynote. Okay, you can see me. All right. So today I'm going to talk about the common sense approach to scaling lean, and I'm going to tell you, I think, 4 different stories that all converge to the same conclusions at the end. The first story that I'm going to tell you is about a little child, myself, learning how to play chess. So I was 4 years old when my father was teaching me how to play chess. Oh, that's my presentation. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. Right. So that's the first story. My father teaching me how to play chess. I'm sure you've heard about these wunderkind, small creatures that can win chess against a chess master at the age of 3. I was nothing like that. I was below average. I was mature to level -10 or something. And my father was teaching me how to play chess. He taught me how to move the pawn, how to move the king, how to move the queen, and things like that. And I was ready to rock. So we started playing, and we play, and we play, and we play, and each game, every freaking game, I lose. And I start asking questions. How on earth am I playing by the rules and I'm still losing? And then my father started giving me some advice. He told me, you know what, you should try to do the rocade. The rocade is where you switch the king and the rook to protect the king. And I said, aha, this must be it. So I started doing the rocade every game. My first objective, every game, switch the rook and the king. Guess what? I was still losing each game. And then my father told me, sometimes you move the knight to the side of the board. The knight is the horse. And when you move them to the side, they have limited impact. Because when they are at the center, they can go all the way through the board, and when they are on the side, they can only go to a few places. And I say, all right, so I must stop doing that. And I start following my father's advice. Only moving the knight to the center of the board. Guess what? I'm still losing each game. Then another advice. My father told me, you attack with the queen very often, and I capture it very easily. And the queen is your best figure, your best piece. So stop doing that. And I stopped doing that. It didn't help. I was still losing each game. And this can go on forever, you know. I must have lost at least 1,000 games before winning for the first time. I was very stubborn, and I wanted to win so bad, and that I got so frustrated that I started watching games by the biggest chess players at the time. These were Kasparov, Anand, Topalov, you know these guys. And then, oh my God, they weren't playing by the rules of my father. They would not do the rocade each game. They would attack with the queen. They would even sacrifice the queen just to get some advantage. And they did with the horses whatever they wanted. And they were still winning. At that time, I said to myself, okay, my father is a really bad player. I should stop listening to my father. And I stopped listening to my father. And that's when I started winning. So what's the moral of the story? The moral is that when you play by the rules of others, it's always a doomed game because you don't understand the intrinsic principles that give you the strategic advantage against your opponent. And as the CEO of Kanban, I speak to a lot of customers that are attempting a big scale implementation of Agile. And I often hear words such as safe or DAD or Nexus or whatever. And these frameworks are okay. I'm not the hugest fan, but they are okay because they contain a lot of knowledge. But this knowledge, it's different pieces that you have to learn to glue together by yourself. We live in a complex world, and chess is a complex game, right? There are thousands and millions of possible moves, and it's still very complex, very, very hard to learn to play chess. And what about life? Life has unlimited possibilities, and we try to take a intrinsically complex system, apply a fixed thing on top of this complex system, and expect to make it work. I've never seen that. I think it doesn't work by definition. So while frameworks are okay, and while they give us the knowledge to ask the right questions, I don't think we should blindly apply these frameworks. Let me tell a different story. We've all been monkeys. And I'm not talking about the Darwin evolution. I'm talking about the way we learn. The story that I'm going to tell you is more like an urban legend. It's not a real experiment, but it's based on real experiments. And it's with monkeys. So a group of scientists got 5 monkeys in a room. And in the middle of the room there was a ladder. And on top there was a banana. And they put the monkeys inside. And when a monkey sees a banana, what's the natural thing to do? They climb the ladder and get the banana. But at that point, the scientists ran a cold shower in the room, and all the monkeys got soaked in cold water. So they do this over and over again, and at some point in time, the monkeys become so infuriated with this that they start beating the guy who wants to get the banana. Okay? So banana, somebody climbs, they beat it up. Until the monkeys stopped doing that. They realized that getting the banana was followed by punishment. But then the scientists, being so clever, they replaced one of the monkeys with a new one that didn't know about the cold shower. And of course, the natural reaction to the new monkey was to go up and get the banana. And it was beaten up by the rest of the monkeys without knowing why. And then they replaced the second, the third, and all the monkeys. And guess what happened? When some monkey was wanting to get the banana, it was beaten up, even though none of the remaining monkeys in the room had ever experienced cold shower before. And this is the equivalent of that's how we do things here in our daily work. And it doesn't work with just monkeys. I've been a monkey myself. When I was taught to be a project manager once, I was sitting with a senior project manager, and he was teaching me how to do forecasting, estimation, planning, risk management, and all these things. And I could hear 2 voices in my head. So one was saying, this is bullshit. And the other one, but this guy has 20 years experience managing projects. You should listen to this guy. Yeah, but this is bullshit. How on earth could I know what John is going to do 3 months in the future and how much time it's going to take? Yeah, but he has 20 years of experience. You should listen to this guy. And unfortunately, this voice was the winning one, so I stopped questioning the project management traditional principles, and I listened. And I became a really good project manager. I could estimate the project however I wanted. I could estimate it to be twice as big, 3 times as big as I really thought. And it was passing okay because nobody knew how to do these things. And I was always on time because I had so big of a reserve that I could exhaust it however I wanted. But luckily for me, I got invited to a different company that was attempting a lean transformation at a big scale. And that's how I became a change agent. That had nothing to do with lean, nothing to do with agile, but I was taught again how to do these things, and my life developed a bit differently. I'd like to tell you about this journey with a bit more details because I really believe that people learn as they fail, as I did with the chess game with my father. When I got to this company, it was around 2010. It was a completely waterfall company, and it was in a lot of trouble. We had just acquired a big US company, and there were 20 plus products that had to be integrated together to work as a single product. And we had functional issues, performance issues, security issues, upgrade issues, installation issues, whatever issues you can think of, we had them. And we had to resolve these. On top of that, the teams were geographically distributed. So we had one product being developed in the States, in Bulgaria, and in India. And these teams had to work together on a single product. It was a complete nightmare. And on top of that, we had a lot of hot customers. And when I say hot, I don't mean beautiful. I mean hot, near the boiling point, after which they stopped being a customer. So we had to do something. And we started, of course, with a good old Scrum. I'm not the biggest fan of Scrum, to be honest, but it worked, at least in the beginning. We were able to speak the same language. By the way, how many of you do Scrum right now? Okay, nothing personal. Scrum is great. So we started speaking the same language. We knew what the product owner was supposed to do. We knew what the Scrum Master was supposed to do. I got myself trained as a certified Scrum Master. And that helped us to start getting something out the door. And at some point in time, we thought, okay, we're done. But we had a lot of customer issues. We had a lot of problems still. And the books were promising us that Scrum will solve all the problems, but it didn't happen. We still had a lot of problems, and we were not getting features out the door. So we had to do something else. And then we started thinking, we brought our common senses back to us. We stopped relying on external frameworks to do the job for us. And we came up with this. It's a shocking slide, but I'll explain it in just a minute. So this is the so-called promotion process. A promotion process is the process that gets the code from the developer's machine to the customer. Here's how it worked. We had 3 cadences, a daily, a weekly, and a monthly cadence. And the different teams were doing the same thing. So we had 20 plus teams right here. Every day, they develop something, they submit it to the code repository, there are automated tests, they run, they pass. When they pass, we physically copy the builds from each of the repositories to a central repository where this thing is configured to work as a single product, because they were 20 different products but had to work together. All right? So we build them together, we configure them to work together, and we run automated tests even more on this set of configuration. If there's a problem, there's a blocker submitted to this code base. And the product that was responsible for the blocker had to fix it within 2 days. If this didn't happen, there was a lock, which is where you have to chase me out of the room because this is like heresy for the software developer. We've just locked the entire version control. Nobody can commit anything to it. It was really painful for a lot of people because that's not what you get used to when you work. But our thinking was, okay, we have something broken. We shouldn't add to it. We should just lock, fix the bugs, and then continue to add more. It worked. When there's 0 issues on this set of builds, we just take them and we copy them to the weekly cadence repository where we run even more tests. This time a bit more sophisticated tests, like installation, configuration, things like that. Again, the same principle applies. If there's a single bug, it becomes a blocker, it has to be fixed. If it's not fixed, we lock the subversion, and then we fix it and then we unlock it. Then we take all these builds, we copy them to the monthly snapshot where we run end-to-end tests that the real customer is likely to do. And when all these tests pass, we move to potentially shippable product. So these were a total of 260,000 automated tests, all passing. Now is the point to just say that if you have automation in QA, but it fails all the time, maybe you should try to fix these. I see a couple of smiling faces. I guess that some tests are failing right now. So did this happen? Did this help? Quality went through the roof. We were not delivering broken software anymore. Everybody was happy, even the customer were happy. But the business guys weren't happy. The product management organization, which was a different organization, they were completely unhappy with us because we weren't delivering enough features. And as David mentioned in the keynote, they don't have the capability to say no. So they always push for more. They push for more. They weren't realizing that they might be doing some damage to us. So we're scrumming, we're very good on the team level, we have very good quality, and we're slow. How is this possible? It took us some time to realize that we had come to this. This is an image from a Bulgarian fable about the bird, the lobster, and the fish. They were supposed to get this wheelbarrow full of food from one place to the other because there was nothing to eat. And they were trying really hard. They were trying really hard. They were the teams, the Scrum teams, they were doing their best, being super fast. But the wheelbarrow was stuck and everybody died from hunger, unfortunately. We realized that it was what was happening in our company. We had the teams dispersed working on different features. So one team was working on feature 1, the second team was working on feature 3, and we were not making progress as a company. So we had to do something. We had to put some governance layer on top of that. And that's what we came up with. We called it the feature management, and it's a table with columns and the number of features in each of the stages that they were going through. What does this look like? Sorry? Be brave. What does this look like?
Micromanagement.
Ah, you really surprised me. Okay, I was not expecting this answer. I was expecting something like a Kanban board. Okay? This is the right answer. Okay, if we suppose that it was something like a Kanban board, would you say that it's a healthy Kanban board or an unhealthy Kanban board?
Micromanagement.
The right answer is unhealthy. Okay, it's unhealthy because for a year we had released 150 features, and in progress we had 232. This is real data from a real company. So we had more than a year worth of work in progress, and we had nothing to do against that because it had already been started. I was one of the people that was advocating limiting work in progress here because it's not a real pull system if there's no limit. But due to the politics in the company and that the business department was a different department, we couldn't get to that. And I was really sorry, but it was bothering me so much on the inside that I couldn't get to this next level that I thought, okay, maybe I should start my own company and try to tackle this problem for other companies. That's how we started Kanbanize, to solve these kind of problems. So now I'm going to talk about the first-person view of the CEO, this time for a completely different company. Nothing like the first one. Small startup, 2 people, 3 people in the beginning. It's quite interesting how we went through the same thing. So when we were 2 guys in the beginning, it was very easy because we could do anything we wanted. We didn't need process, we knew all the code base, we could fix all the bugs in 2 minutes because we knew everything, and it was good. But then new people started to pop up in the company. We were growing, and then we realized that we had no means to see what's going on there. We didn't know when things are going to end for the customer, and there was no predictability in the system. So we said, okay, we're developing Kanban software, we should start using it. And we started using it. I actually think it worked pretty well, even on the low maturity levels. So we just applied Team Kanban. That's what we call Team Kanban. And it was great. People were happy, we were controlling work in progress, we were flawless. But guess what? Quality became a problem. Again, as in the first company. And we were having a lot of customer issues. And since we hated that, we had to distract ourselves so much to fix issues and then go back to features, we got some QA people. And they were great. I mean, they did amazing things for us. But the issues didn't disappear. They were still coming up. So we had to take a stand and decide what to do with the customer issues. And we came to that, the R&D priorities. So at our company, we still work abiding by these rules. If there's a customer issue, you stop and fix it, no matter what. You might be working on the most brilliant feature in the world, you stop and fix the customer issue. Second priority, regressions. If there's something that used to work, but doesn't work, you stop and fix it, as long as you don't have customer issues. Third one, internal issues. These are the ones that we discovered ourselves for things that didn't work at all in the past. We also deplete this one. Then we get to technical debt. This is a bit fuzzy, I have to admit, because you can never pay back the entire technical debt. But we invest a lot into that because we understand that long-term agility can only be achieved through good code. And the last one is new features. Again, heresy. How come we invest in the new features as the lowest priority when the customers only pay for that? Our take is that number 1 to 4 is an investment. So if you do small investments every now and then, regularly, you pay back the issues, the debt, then eventually you always have time to deliver new features. If you stop doing 1 to 4, or you underinvest, you can get speed on the features for a short period of time, but after that, your system becomes cluttered with a lot of problems, customer issues, escalations, and you have to stop. You have to resolve the fires, you have to make your customers trust you again, and by that time, you're in a lot of trouble. So did it help? Of course. We have 0 customer issues Kanban right now. How many of you guys have 0 customer issues? Okay, I've never ever seen anybody raising their hand. Okay, and I'm not showing off. I'm saying that if you do these things in a disciplined way, it's possible. Of course, we have issues that we don't know about, but out of the ones that we know about, all of them have been fixed. And we have around 60 internal issues that are low priority. And the code base for the product is about 1 million lines. So it's not a tiny, tiny product. It's a very big product. But we've fixed thousands of bugs. And we keep it that way. So quality went through the roof. We had the Kanban on the team level. Quality went through the roof. You would say we were very good. Yes, but we weren't. It looked like, from the C-level perspective, even for a small company, it looked like we were not doing anything. The teams were working their asses off. Everybody was super busy, working crazy hours, like 16 hours a day. And nothing seemed to go out of the company as a whole. How on earth was that possible? And then we realized that we were in the same situation that I was in my previous company, and we were getting to the same problem that we started the company for resolving. So it was kind of a paradox. But we had taken so much strategic initiatives at the same time that we were spreading ourselves thin across a portfolio of many, many things, and we couldn't focus on anything. So spending a couple of weeks in depression and shame that I allowed that to happen, we started doing Kanban on the strategy level. So it's a strategic Kanban board. These things here, they're all strategic initiatives that we had put a whip limit on. It's not visible here, but it's 10. So we said we work only on 10 things at maximum and nothing more. So these cards here, if you see these colors, they represent children cards somewhere down the hierarchy where the teams are actually working on while we maintain the overall whip here. And that's where we got reborn. I mean, we got so much speed on the company level that I couldn't believe it was the same company. So I highly, highly recommend that we manage strategically portfolios with working progress limits. Okay, so what's the recap? This is company 1. This is company 2. This is a very, very, very big enterprise, huge enterprise company. Thousands of people. This is a very small startup. 10 guys. We were 10 guys back then. What we did when we wanted to tackle the team efficiency, when we wanted the teams to deliver, we applied, in the first case, Scrum, in the second case, Team Kanban. Did it work? Of course, it worked. And I would claim that it doesn't really matter what you apply on the team level. You could be doing Kanban, you could be doing Scrum, it will work. Some are better than the other, and I'm obviously a Kanban guy, but even Scrum works. So, no offense, I mean, really. And when we tackled this problem, we realized that quality becomes an issue. And how did we tackle quality? In the first company, it was the promotion process that I talked about. In the second company, it was the R&D priorities. But these two were instances of the same stop and fix mentality that comes from Toyota. How many of you know about stop and fix? Let me explain a bit. In Toyota, they produce cars, right? So there's a production line with the cars, partly done, partially done. And there are stations with people doing something, bolts, attaching parts to the car. And I'm this guy that screws some bolts, and I find a problem. And I pull an on-dom cord that triggers some alarms. Classic music starts playing, people realize that there's a problem. But the production line keeps moving. So people come to me, my team lead comes to me and helps me to resolve this issue. If I'm able to resolve it within a certain time frame, I pull the cord again, and everything goes back to normal. But if I can't resolve the issue within some time limits, then the production line stops. And in the Western world, this was heresy, because when the production line stopped, the company was losing money. But the Japanese realized that stopping the line many times for a short period of time was cheaper than stopping it once for 2 days, for example. And that's what we did. We're stopping the line for a short period of time, fixing the things, and then resuming the line. Here, it's the same thing. Stop the line, fix the issues, resume the line. So they were both instances of the stop and fix. And when we had the team efficiency and collaboration sorted out, we had quality sorted out, in both companies we got stuck on the higher level. And I think David was referring to some sort of this problem when he was talking about the glass ceiling that companies were coming to. At some point you get stuck. And I have my own theory, it's not scientifically proven, that when you get stuck somewhere, you have to climb one level up, visualize work there, manage flow there, potentially limit work in progress, and then the knots will untangle below because you manage the higher level. And in our community, it's often said, manage the work, not the worker. And I'll change that to don't manage the work, don't manage the worker, but manage the portfolio. So if we tell that these two are the portfolio layers, and this could be features, this could be strategic initiatives, it could be releases, whatever. Just manage flow on the higher level, and the things below will untangle by themselves. That's a theory. You have to test it by yourself. I cannot promise that it works, but it works for me. And I actually think that's a pattern. I haven't thought about it a lot because I just heard about the maturity model this morning, but I think it goes pretty good hand in hand, at least partially, with the maturity model. Because you start from somewhere, completely shallow implementation, and then you discover new things, you make this and you go to this. So I think there's definitely a pattern. I'm curious to know if that corresponds to your experience. There's a roundtable a bit later, so please join the portfolio roundtable and let's talk about these things. And I'd like to wrap up with a statement that if you try to improve what we've been doing with my company, with the other company, with my chess playing, if you try to improve, Very importantly, if you stop being a monkey, if you keep your common senses, listen to this guy that's telling you that there's something wrong, and if you persist long enough, then you will discover your own version of Lean. So the frameworks are great as sources of truth, but you have to take selectively things from each of the frameworks that you enjoy or prefer for some reason, test it out in your context, see if it works. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't work, ditch it. Don't try to take something big and just throw it at your company. It's going to be a disaster, at least from my experience. And I encourage you to invent your own versions of Lean. It's quite an adventure, and it's been enjoyable for me, and I'm still doing it, so it's a never-ending journey. Now we have, I'm not sure how much time for questions. 5 minutes, okay? So 5 minutes for questions. Thank you very much. No questions?
I'll ask one. You had the list of priorities.
Right.
Using the stop the line theory, so we stop everything else and go straight to the customer. Was there any consideration of capacity allocation in the Kanban system so that you could do one whilst achieving the other?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was a capacity constraint or any sort of thinking about capacity. We had a very simple rule that probably won't work for other contexts, but for our context it was just fix that issue no matter what. And if one person can work on it, one person works on it, well, the other people are doing what they're doing.
Oh, okay.
If two people are fixing the issue, the rest are doing what they're doing, but they're not committing to the common code base, right? It's difficult to manage with many people, and since we have a relatively small team, we could just say to the others, don't commit, and they wouldn't commit, right? For a big system, you have these kind of mechanisms to block.
So you found that you were having opportunity to get to the new features. It was just that you were prioritizing other things on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, we wouldn't stop everybody from working because it didn't make sense for us. But we wanted to make sure that each customer issue is resolved in the shortest time frame possible.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.